And here's a square start 4 plate. So you have the center bite crossed. And you can braid this for a little bit. This is a bigger mandrel than you probably need. But you turn it sideways. You bring this one over, and then this one over, and this one over, and the outside one over. You just switch sides. Simple fishtail braid. And that'll give you that character of a flat kind of fishtail shape. And with an even number, it's always going to look a little weird, but you're just coming over the top of everything. And then if you don't want this to move, there's a lot of ways of just tying this or cinching it off. And then it just depends on what you want to do. Do what you want to do. So there's a few other braids that are fun. You can go over one. So you can go like under one, over, under one, under one, over. It's a different type of a fishtail flat braid. There's a bunch of different little braiding patterns with 4 that you can use. Just depends. You're going to have to play with it and figure out what kind of bracelet you want to make. And the nice part is you can always take your fid and break it back. If you want to do you can cross the bottom too and start a round braid. You can come around and through, around and through, around and through. It's a form of chain sinnet or braid. Just a four plait. And just figuring out what you want to do. Another thing you can do is you can cut these, get the length you want. You can cut these off. You can kind of tuck them together to tuck them through a bead. You can play with your bead capture size and what you want it to look like. But you're going to have to play with it and figure out what the look is you want. I'm just giving you some ideas of things you can do. And you may not like to tie it off this way. I mean, it really doesn't matter. It's completely up to you as to how you want to do it. The nice part is it's pretty easy to undo and just play with it. And you can work the tension. So if you want to close this so that it tightens more, you can pull in each of the strands. And you can cinch it up. Since you know the order of the strands, you just work all the tension through the through the braid. And it may look messy until you get to the end of it, but you can work with it. You can even it out a little bit. And having a fid or a marlin spike is a useful tool in working with cordage. So, but this is still a cinching loop. It'll cinch down on something and will slide. One thing you can do is you can tie a knot here, up here, before you pull the tails through, and it'll create a stop. And like I was sort of saying the other day. So and a pencil's a pretty big size hole. So, especially if you're dealing with really fine cordage. This is another way to create an end. You can put the pieces in parallel. And just start braiding on a small fid. We switch to like a fishtail braid. So there's a very short loop. It won't go all the way around a bead because that's only 2 fingers. So that will go around a bead. You tie a knot. You can dress this and make it all perfectly parallel and pretty if you want. Tuck the tails. One thing you have to do is you have to get all 4 tails into this tucked in. Because if you don't successfully get all 4 through that hole, it's really hard to go back and get the 4th one later. This will create a closure with a stop. So this one, you could open it up to get it over something and it'll create a closure with a stop. And a bead will fit in there. And you can slide beads and tie knots, slide beads and tie knots. Just depends on how you want to go about doing it. And the neat part is you can set and play with this forever. But you can imagine trying to push all those through there. A lot of times you can work the individual cord pieces past where they get stuck. Using a fid. And sometimes you can't, but most of the time you can get it to work. And so now you're back to a cinching clasp. So this is a 1.5 millimeter cord instead of paracord. And there's a ton of ways to make this kind of closure. It just depends on what you actually want in the end. So the nice part of the closing one is you can move it. And mind you, I'm pulling on this really hard. It won't close on its own, but you can push it with your finger and close it or open it. So and you can just continue the braid if you want. There's a bigger loop now. So play with it and let me know what you think. Just showing you how I would go about it.